Have you ever wanted to be a Marvel Comics historian? If so, you're in luck. Today, we're doing a short box showcase spotlighting the Marvel Comics 1985 series, The Marvel Saga, the official history of the Marvel Universe. Check it out. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and this is North Garden Comics. Last time, I talked about the fact that I was going to start broadening my content, the different types of videos that I was going to be putting out, so that I could better, more holistically represent who I am as a comic book reader and collector, but then hopefully that'll also give me the opportunity to connect with more of you who may share similar interests. Today is an example of that. We're going to do what I call a short box showcase, and that's when I go behind me here, pull down one of these short boxes, and we take a look at one of the titles, runs, or stories that I've enjoyed and would like to share with you, and then maybe it also gives you something that you want to add to your own personal collection. But before we do that, let me take just a second and say, if you like this kind of content, please take just a moment, hit that subscribe button. And as you watch, if you see something you like, hit the thumbs up. And as always, leave me your thoughts, questions, and comments down below. All right, now for the short box showcase. I am going to be spotlighting for you the Marvel Comics 1985 series, The Marvel Saga, the official history of the Marvel Universe. 25 issues in this run, and I have taken them out of their bags and boards just so I can give you a better look at the covers. And of course, anytime I get a comic out of its bag and board, I love that old pulp paper comic smell. I mean, come on, you know you love it too. Be honest. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around and give you a closer look at these books. Not only are the covers cool, but every one of these features a double-sided cover or a wraparound cover. So want to be able to zoom in and give you the best look possible. All right, here we go, starting off with issue number 1. I won't spend a ton of time on any individual issue, but on this first one, I do want to highlight some of the features that are present in all of the issues throughout the series. First, you can see the way they organize the covers. They follow a theme really showing you what elements of the story are going to be covered inside. Not always the case with comic book covers, right? We know from any number of covers that the cover has nothing to do with what happens inside the book. But in this case, it's kind of summarizing some of those elements. But also, it's this collage type of a format. And then when you open it up here, it starts with this kind of letter from the editor, and a couple things to highlight just on this first issue, that they are telling the story in continuity, and they'll talk about how the different characters and teams and storylines interweave together. But another thing to highlight here is that they say, you know, they've taken sequences from many diverse sources along with some newly drawn material. So certain pictures are new and others are just pulled from the original source material. And then they're crafted into a story that you'll never forget. This issue, for instance, has material from 12 different sources, ranging from Fantastic Four #1 to Alpha Flight #3. And what's really cool here is that they say, by the way, nothing has been made up for this history. If information was not presented somewhere in a Marvel comic, it won't be in Marvel Saga. So at least at this time, the history that they're retelling is not a retcon of any way. This is all just pulling from the original source material and then weaving it all together into a narrative for you. Another thing to point out here, this series came out as part of Marvel's 25th anniversary celebration. You see his PS. Saga is just the opening event celebrating Marvel's first quarter century, one that begins a little before the big anniversary and will keep on going for a long while after it's over. And this series ran till sometime in 1987. Other elements here to point out, it'll show you who did the artwork. So for example, Ron Frenz and Al Milgrom, they did art on pages 1 to 5. That's some of that additional artwork that was added. And then here it gives you the cover art credits. You got Rob Frenz and Bob Layton. It'll also show you what original books they pulled material from. So for example, in this issue 1, they pulled material from Fantastic Four #1 and 2, Tales to Astonish numbers 27 and 44, Avengers number 227, and Alpha Flight numbers 2 and 3, and then The Thing numbers 1 and 10. So it doesn't go in order. Even though the story goes in order, their source material comes from all different, time periods in that 25 years. And maybe if it comes from a later comic, maybe it's just a flashback material that they use to then put in so that they can tell you the story in order. But as you flip through here, then you can get an idea of some of the way the pages are laid out, and there's some of these narrative blocks that have been added on all the pages in addition to the comic panels. And what's neat about this, one thing I'll say that's neat about this, is that you get reprints of some of the original art, like from Jack Kirby and other greats from the Silver and Bronze Age. So that's a nice addition as well, because buying those original first prints of those books can be pretty spendy. So this is a nice affordable way to start to get some of their artwork collected and be able to have those stories. And then there's the back cover. This one is a wraparound. I'll show you here. So it's got the collage. So you got Rawhide Kid, you got Captain America, the Celestials, Alpha Flight, Fantastic Four, etc. Here's issue 2. And we're going through, you see some of the origins, starting the origins of Spider-Man, the Hulk, and this is plus the Fantastic Four, the Submariner, the Sinister Skrulls, and believe it or not, even more. And then it goes through here. I'll give you again similar layout here on the front. And again, tells you where they pulled material from. It even jumps ahead to Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man number 60. And the Skrulls are impersonating the Fantastic Four. Hulk's origin there. And then, I didn't point this out on issue number 1. Always tell you what's coming next, but then they'll have a cover gallery in the back where they will feature some of the covers of the issues that are collected in this issue. And there you go. The Thing's helmet. Here's issue 3. So you got some Doom, Namor, continuing the origin of Spider-Man. Now we start to see the X-Men, and of course Fantastic Four, Hulk, and more. You get the origin of Doctor Doom. Here we have some additional pages written in the front here. Story of Atlantis. Namor's history. Doom. And then let's go. Again, featured covers there. You start to see Xavier. There's the back cover. Number 4. Start to get some of the background origin stories of some of the X-Men and related characters. Storm, Juggernaut. There's Thor's origin. Dr. Blake there. See, and this one jumps ahead. Here's X-Men 161, but material is collected in here telling some of those early stories. Number 5. So more X-Men X-Factor origins. I'm not sure why they're saying X-Factor origins, because X-Factor was not a team this early on when Fantastic Four was still getting started. And I don't remember the original date that X-Factor launched. It was sometime around now, and it could be that was just a nice draw for people, since the original X-Men is the team that became X-Factor. So we've got some of their backup stories that was not told in X-Factor, but told in Uncanny X-Men issues. Angel finding his wings there for the first time as his mutant gene is activated. And back cover there. On to number 6. More X-Men X-Factor origins. Cyclops, Iceman, origin of Iron Man now. Puppet Master. There's Iceman. Again, a lot of just great ways that they pull from the original books. Had a little Walt Simonson there from Thor. There's 7. Some more Iron Man origin. Spider-Man. And I like how they weave the stories together to show what was happening either just before, just after, or at the same time as some of the other events that you're familiar with. First encounters. So obviously this is 8 issues in. It's, you know, spreading some of these things out to tell the stories of lots of characters. Early Spider-Man. Fantastic Four, and obviously heavily focused on the Fantastic Four as the first family of Marvel Comics and really the bedrock of the age of superheroes for Marvel, the birth of the Marvel Universe. Up to issue 9, got Doc Ock, Angel in his newer costume, new at the time. Puppet Master always to me looked like a freaky Professor X. And there's the back there, the Vulture, Watchers. Here's issue 10. So now they're a team now, the X-Men, after they've told the individual origin stories. Here we have the Avengers' first battle. And I will admit, it's not the fastest read, and I think that's, you know, 2 reasons I think that contribute to that. The first is simply, I think, the time period. You know, comics in the 80s were much wordier than comics today, and if you've read older comics and you've read newer comics, you notice pretty quickly that the amount of time it takes you to read a new comic is much less, or noticeably less, than the amount of time it takes you to read a comic from the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. There's just a lot more narrative, a lot more dialogue to get through in these first few decades of, you know, the Silver and Bronze Age with superhero comics. And so it's a lot lighter on that now. So, you know, for me, I think it's probably, you know, 10 minutes or so it takes me to get through a current comic. But I don't know if I've measured, but I would say probably a solid 15 to get through a comic of this era. But then the second thing, you have Cap's original shield, and then he trades it in for the round one. But the other reason why these take it's a little bit harder to read is it's just the story, right? It's intended to be written as a story. Start to get Daredevil now. It's written as a story, but it is still heavy on the prose with paragraphs, so each issue is also very chock full of story, and it can be a little bit drier than your traditional, you know, standard comic book that you read each month from Marvel. There, lots of Daredevil. All right, here we are up to number 14. You know, I did not collect these when they first came out. So 1985, 1986, 87, I wasn't reading Marvel Saga. In fact, I didn't start collecting comics until 1987, 1988. It was right around the time I got into high school. So I did not even know this title existed until about 5 years ago. And that was when my brother-in-law, who's a little bit older than me, not much, but just a little bit, he also collected comics in the, you know, he started a little bit before I did, and so he has some things that I didn't have. And about 5 years ago, we were visiting, and he, long story short, gave me his entire childhood comic book collection. And if you'd like to see the story about that and see what I got out of that, I will have links to those videos in the description down below. But in that collection, he had a couple issues of this series, Marvel Saga. And again, I'd never seen it before. and he had that issue number 1 and 3 or 4 others. You know, I think early numbers. He may have had the very last issue as well, but 3 or 4 issues. I'd never heard of it, but it looked really cool to me, and so I figured there's a part of me, of course, that is a completionist and loves to put full runs together, and so I figured I'll keep an eye out for these Marvel Saga issues, and thankfully they're not super valued in that, you know, you're not going to have to spend, you know, a lot of money on any one issue, and that is good because then you're much more likely to be able to find these in dollar bins. And so I was able to put together the whole series. It took me about 2 years of casually looking for them in dollar bins, and you've heard me say before too that I get picky with some of these. If I know that I can find it in a dollar bin, I won't buy just the first copy I find. I will hold out and try to find higher grade, better condition copies of the books. And so I did that. These are not, you know, great, but they're decent grade. And I was able to complete this whole series for not more than $1 an issue. And some of them I got were newsstands, a lot of them are direct editions, but really at different sales and shows, I was able to put these together for, like I said, $1 a piece. And for several, I even got them for 50 cents and some even a quarter a piece, which was a great find. I love quarter books. And that number 1 that I showed first, it may not have come through on the video, but it's a little bit beat up. And if I ever see a number 1 that's in better shape, maybe I'll get it. But I will say too that, you know, if you put these in Mylar, Mylar covers a lot of errors and makes for really nice presentation. Something I want to highlight about this issue, this entire issue number 22 features on the relationship and the whole history of Mary Jane and Peter Parker. So you see it starts out here with the proposal, and I actually haven't read this one yet. I haven't gotten this far through. There's Will You Marry Me? Gulp. Again. Let's see if it ends. There it is, ending with the wedding there. But this whole issue is dedicated to their relationship. It's pretty cool. And then just a few more to go here. The way the series wraps up, I believe, as far as where the history goes to, is when Fantastic Four encounters Galactus for the first time. Here's issue 24. This one's it's got the origin of Galactus. It's great, you still get Kirby even this far in. Let's see if it shows. Watcher. Yep. Here's the origin of Galactus, the ending of his universe, and the creation of ours. Oop. Where does it end? And that Kirby greatness there in this issue. Here's where he encounters Norrin Radd, which of course leads into the origin of the Silver Surfer. And that is the story that takes up issue 25. Art Adams doing the cover art on this one. Gives Norrin Radd's origin. Get through here. And then here's Reed. And then it wraps up, and it's the Watcher who's telling this story in the end, is what we learn. The end, which we know, of course, is absolutely not the end, just the first 25 years. And here we'll open up and show you this final wraparound cover. Pretty cool. There was Galactus and Silver Surfer again. Art Adams doing the art on that final cover. All right, that's going to do it for me, and that's going to wrap up this short box showcase spotlighting for you Marvel Comics 1985 series, The Marvel Saga, the official history of the Marvel Universe. You know, this was a fun series for me to put together, and if you're looking to add something to your collection, you know, I'll recommend it because one, it's just fun to have in comic book form that in continuity history of the first 25 years of Marvel's stories. And then secondly, as you put these together, because they're not highly valued from a dollar perspective, there's a much better chance that you could find most or all of these in dollar bins. So happy hunting to those of you who want to add this to your collection. Let me say again by way of reminder, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please take a moment, hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up if you liked what you saw, and leave me your comments down below. If you're ready for some more fun content now, I've got some videos here for you to check out with some back issue comic book hauls. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.